The fire has burned down to a soft ember glow, and the world feels a little quieter, like it's holding its breath for something gentle. Tonight we're taking a slow, dreamy walk through Christmas around the world, collecting traditions the way you'd collect warm lights in your hands, carefully one by one, until they glow. Picture yourself stepping out into cold air that smells faintly like pine and sugar. Somewhere far away, bells are ringing, not loudly, not urgently, just enough to remind you that this season arrives in many languages, in many streets, and in many homes. We'll begin in Mexico, where Christmas doesn't simply start on one day. It arrives in waves like a repeated lullaby. For 9 nights, December 16th through December 24th, people celebrate Las Posadas, a tradition that reenacts Mary and Joseph's search for shelter. The word posada means inn, and each night becomes a small journey, neighbors walking together, often singing, sometimes carrying candles, and moving from house to house until a door finally opens and everyone is welcomed in. It's a tradition built from footsteps and voices, one that turns a neighborhood into a shared story. And because the night has opened its door, the celebration follows: warmth, food, laughter that stays soft around the edges. In many homes, this is the season when a piñata shaped like a star might appear, bright and waiting, a playful burst of color in the midst of tradition. Now let the scene drift northward, over dark winter water and into Sweden, where Christmas Eve has a pause built into it. An almost sacred hush in the middle of the day. At 3 p.m. on Christmas Eve, families gather around televisions for a beloved Disney program known as Kajsjänka. Donald Duck and Friends wishing everyone a Merry Christmas. It's been broadcast in Sweden every Christmas Eve for decades, becoming less about cartoons and more about the calm togetherness of doing the same comforting thing at the same time year after year. Millions tune in. The day gently rearranges itself around that hour. And when you imagine that moment, rooms softly lit, plates waiting, people settling into couches, you can almost feel how traditions work. They make time feel safe. They tell you, you're here again. You made it to this season again. From there, our walk glides across the sea and into Japan, where Christmas is celebrated in a way that's surprisingly modern. Less about religion for most people and more about atmosphere, romance, and small rituals that feel special. One of the most famous, eating KFC for Christmas, a tradition that traces back to a major campaign in 1974, when Kentucky for Christmas turned fried chicken into a holiday centerpiece. Over time, it became something people planned for, sometimes even pre-ordering, so the holiday meal can be picked up and carried home like a warm little package of celebration. Now, let the air turn softer and more tropical as we drift to the Philippines, where the Christmas season is known for stretching long and bright, where light itself becomes art. In San Fernando, Pampanga, there's an annual tradition called the Giant Lantern Festival, Ligligan Parol, famous for enormous lanterns built and decorated with intricate patterns, designed to glow and pulse with color. It's a celebration of community craftsmanship, where neighborhoods compete not with noise, but with beauty, layer upon layer of light like a stitched-together constellation. And if you stand in that imagined crowd for a moment, lanterns towering, the night alive with gentle brilliance, you start to notice a quiet theme forming across countries and climates. Christmas traditions often revolve around the same few comforts, dressed in different styles. A shared journey, a familiar hour, a special meal, a handmade light. Different details, same human warmth. Breathe slowly now, like you're watching snowfall, even if it isn't snowing where you are. We've only just opened the book and already the world is glowing in different colors. The night keeps unfolding quietly, like a quilt being pulled up inch by inch. And as we continue our gentle walk, The world offers more Christmas traditions, each one like a small lantern placed along the path. In France, Christmas Eve can stretch long past the hour you'd normally be asleep. There's a tradition called Réveillon, a late, lingering celebration meal held on Christmas Eve, and sometimes New Year's Eve too. The name comes from the idea of staying awake as the dinner carries on, unhurried into the night. In some places it's traditionally linked with attending midnight mass first, and then returning home to eat and talk while the world outside stays dark and still. And in a lovely twist, this same word, Réveillon, travels across oceans. In Brazil, it's also used to describe the big celebration meal, showing how traditions can migrate, changing accents and flavors, but keeping the same heartbeat. Stay up, stay together, make the night feel warm. Now let the scene drift north again to Norway, where Christmas Eve carries an old shiver of folklore. There's a tradition of hiding brooms on Christmas Eve because in old stories the night was believed to be a time when witches and spirits might come looking for something to ride into the winter sky. So brooms disappear into closets and corners, tucked away like secrets, while the household settles safely into candlelight and calm. From Norway, we float gently south to Catalonia, Spain, where Christmas becomes wonderfully strange in a way only family traditions can. Here, a little log called the Tio de Nadal, often nicknamed Caga-Tio, is brought into the home. It's given a cheerful face, covered with a blanket, and treated almost like a guest. Over the days, children may feed the log, and then when the moment arrives they sing and tap it with sticks, and the log produces small gifts and sweets hidden beneath the blanket. It's playful, absurd, and oddly tender, nourishing something simple, then gathering together to share what comes out of it. And now, with that soft laughter still in the air, we drift to Iceland, where December doesn't bring just one Santa-like figure, it brings a whole procession. Icelandic folklore speaks of the 13 Yule lads, who arrive one by one over the 13 nights leading up to Christmas. Instead of hanging stockings by a fireplace, children place a shoe on a windowsill, and each night a visitor may leave a small gift or sweet inside. It's the kind of tradition that makes bedtime feel magical because the window becomes a doorway for wonder. And, like many traditions, it has a gentle moral stitched into it. In modern tellings, well-behaved children might find treats, while naughty children might find something less exciting, often described as a potato, sometimes even a rotten one. Not frightening exactly. More like a small, sleepy reminder that choices follow you even into fairy tales. The world goes on turning, slowly and softly, while you and I keep wandering through Christmas traditions as if we're walking under a sky full of dim, patient stars. Imagine Germany in winter. The air cold enough to make your breath visible. The streets wrapped in lights that don't shout, just glow. And in town squares across the country, Christmas markets open for the season. Rows of wooden stalls, warm drinks, small handmade things, and the smell of spice and sugar drifting like a friendly fog. These markets are old, with early December market mentions going back centuries, including Vienna in 1298. And German cities like Frankfurt in 1393, which makes them feel less like an event and more like a seasonal returning, like some part of the town simply wakes up each winter. And because winter asks for shared warmth, these markets often come with foods that belong to the season. In Germany, one of the best known is Stollen, the dense holiday bread that's been made for centuries. Especially famous in Dresden, where it's treated with real pride and tradition during Advent. It's the kind of food that tastes like time. Fruit and spice held together, meant to be sliced and shared slowly. Now, from those glowing squares, let's drift toward the Alpine regions. Austria and the mountain towns where folklore still feels close to the ground. Here, early December carries a shadowy companion to St. Nicholas, Krampus, a horned figure from Alpine tradition. In many places, Krampus is said to appear on the night of December 5th, Krampusnacht, just before St. Nicholas Day on December 6th. It's a story version of balance, the sweet and the stern, the reward and the warning, walking side by side through the winter night. And sometimes that folklore becomes a real-life spectacle. Krampus runs and parades, where people wear carved masks and furs and move through streets in groups, turning old stories into something you can hear in footsteps and bells. Is dramatic, yes, but also strangely seasonal, like thunder far away that reminds you the year is still alive. From there, the night carries us eastward, into Ukraine where a Christmas legend is small and shining rather than loud. There's an old folktale known as the legend of the Christmas spider, and it's often associated with decorating the tree with spider ornaments or spiderweb decorations. In the story, a poor family has a tree but nothing to decorate it with until spiders spin webs across the branches, and by morning the webs have turned beautiful in the light, like tinsel. It's a tradition that turns fear into luck, and emptiness into sparkle. And now, as if the path itself wants to soften, we drift into Italy, where Christmas doesn't end when December ends. It stretches onward all the way to January 6th, the Feast of the Epiphany, when a beloved figure arrives. La Befana, an old woman in folklore who travels at night and brings gifts or sweets to children, sometimes leaving coal for the naughty. In many homes, she's the last gentle chapter of the season, the one that quietly closes the book. Now let your imagination lift to the far north again, to Finland, where even Santa has older roots under the familiar red coat. The Finnish Christmas figure is Joulupukki, and his name literally means Christmas goat, a memory of older Nordic traditions lingering inside a modern holiday character. It's like the past wearing a new scarf, still the past, still warm, still present. And so, this part of our story becomes a ribbon of contrasts. Bright markets and dark folklore, spiced bread and spider silk glitter, a stern companion and a kindly gift giver, a goat name hiding inside Santa himself. The night feels even softer now, like someone turned the world's volume down another notch. And in that hush, we can hear the gentler traditions, the ones made of calm words, warm food, and little lights meant to keep winter from feeling too big. In Finland, Christmas Eve begins with something that isn't a song or a gift, but a promise spoken aloud, as if the city itself is taking a slow breath and asking everyone to be kinder. At noon in Turku, the declaration of Christmas peace is read in the old Great Square, a tradition that reaches back deep into the past, often traced to the 1300s. Long ago, it carried a serious message about keeping order during the holy season. Today it's largely symbolic but still deeply felt as a marker that Christmas has truly arrived. People gather in the square, and many more watch through broadcasts, letting the words settle into them like falling snow. And once peace has been spoken, the world feels ready for light again. So we drift west and north to Greenland, where winter is long and darkness can feel endless. Where the windows answer back with color. A beloved tradition there is to place a red-orange Christmas star in the window, glowing warmly against the Arctic night. It's the kind of light that doesn't just decorate, it keeps you company like a small sun made for the home. Now imagine that star from the outside, snow underfoot, cold air, and that orange glow floating in the glass like a quiet welcome. And because lights and stories like to travel, we let the path carry us down into the Low Countries, the Netherlands and Belgium, where early December has its own gift-giving rhythm. Here, the season is shaped by Sinterklaas, celebrated especially around December 5th and 6th. Children may put out a shoe, sometimes with a note or wish, and leave little offerings for the saint's horse such as carrots or hay, hoping to wake up to sweets and small presents. It's a tradition that makes bedtime feel like a doorway. You go to sleep with an empty shoe and you wake to find it changed. And perhaps, since we're talking about sleep, This is a good place to linger because so many Christmas traditions are, at their heart, about what happens in the quiet hours. What arrives at night, what is left by the window, what appears by morning. From there, our story warms into food because winter celebrations often need something hearty and comforting, and sometimes something surprising. In South Africa, Christmas arrives in summer with bright days instead of snowy ones. And that shift changes everything. The feeling of the holiday, the sounds outside, even the way food fits into the heat. Many people celebrate with gatherings that can include outdoor cooking like a braai, a reminder that Christmas isn't tied to cold weather, but to togetherness. And alongside that summer warmth, you still find treats that echo older holiday tables. Mince pies are widely enjoyed as a festive sweet treat. Spiced fruit tucked inside pastry. A small, familiar tradition that traveled and stayed. The lights outside look softer now. More like a watercolor than a photograph. The world feels ready for traditions that glow best when the room is dim. In this part of our story, we'll lean into candlelight, quiet wishes, and gentle superstitions. The kind that feel like they were designed for sleepy eyes. Somewhere in the United Kingdom, a church is dim and warm. The way old buildings can be in winter, the stone holding the day's last bit of heat. Families gather for a service that's especially beloved by children, not because it's loud, but because it's bright in a tender way. They hold a Christingle, an orange with a candle placed in the center. Often there is a red ribbon wrapped around the fruit, and little pieces of sweets or dried fruit on sticks, like tiny stars pinned to a small planet. The candle is lit, and for a moment the room fills with a constellation of small flames. Quiet, careful, and beautiful. It's meant to symbolize Christ as the light of the world, and it turns darkness into something gentle, something safe to look at. Now let that candlelight fade into another kind of nighttime ritual. One that begins after the world has already decided it should be asleep. In the Philippines, Christmas Eve holds a special brightness tucked inside the late hours. Many families attend a church service late at night, and after midnight, they return home for Noche Buena, a cherished midnight feast shared with family. It's a meal that says we're together, we stayed awake for this. We're welcoming joy right into the quietest part of the night. And now, just as you're imagining plates being set down softly, voices lowered, laughter kept gentle, we drift back north into Scandinavia, where winter folklore still slips into the corners of Christmas traditions like a friendly shadow. On a snowy farm in Norway and across nearby Nordic countries, there's an old belief in a small household spirit often called a nis or tomt. The nis is part helper, part trickster, and one of the ways to keep things peaceful is simple. Leave out a bowl of Christmas porridge, often with a generous eye of butter, on top as a kind of offering on Christmas Eve. It's not fear exactly, more like respect. A way of saying we haven't forgotten the old stories and we want the house to feel calm. And speaking of calm, there are places where Christmas Eve traditions become a kind of soft fortune-telling. Not to frighten you, but to give you something to smile at. In the Czech Republic, Christmas Eve carries plenty of gentle customs and superstitions. Tiny rituals that make the night feel a little enchanted. One well-known tradition is cutting an apple crosswise after dinner and looking at the pattern of the seeds inside. If it forms a star-like shape, it's taken as a good sign. If it forms something else, it becomes a quiet nudge to be careful. It's the sort of omen that doesn't shout, just whispers, like reading tea leaves by candlelight. And in the same spirit of small luck, Czech Christmas Eve tables sometimes carry their own hidden hopes. People may tuck a fish scale into a wallet or place it under a plate for good fortune in the year ahead. It's a tradition that fits perfectly with sleepy eyes, a secret little wish you don't even have to say out loud. The room feels dim in the best way now. like the world has agreed to whisper. And in this softer light, we'll step into traditions that glow by candle, and stories that keep winter from feeling too sharp. In Sweden, December holds a morning that looks like a dream. On December 13th, people celebrate Lucia Day, when the darkness of winter is met with a procession of light. You might see it in schools, churches, and town squares. Figures in white gowns, moving slowly, singing softly, with candles helping the shadows behave. Often, one person represents Lucia, traditionally wearing a crown of lights, and for a while it feels like the whole country is practicing how to be calm together. And because every candle seen deserves something warm to go with it, Lucia celebrations are often paired with simple seasonal comforts such as hot drinks, quiet gatherings, the kind of treats that taste best when you're still half asleep and the day is barely starting. Now let's keep that candle feeling and carry it west into Denmark, where winter coziness, hygge, often looks like a small flame in a dark room. In many Danish homes, the weeks before Christmas are marked by an Advent wreath, usually made of evergreens and holding 4 candles, representing the 4 Sundays of Advent. Each week, one more candle is lit, so the light slowly grows as Christmas approaches, like a sunrise that takes a month. And sometimes, Denmark adds another little ritual made for sleepy eyes. A calendar candle that's burned a little each day in December, counting down toward Christmas Eve in the simplest way possible. Just a quiet flame, a tiny daily moment, a soft measure of time. From there, our story slips into the mountains again, where winter traditions can be louder in the streets, but still strangely cozy from a distance, like hearing drums far away while you stay warm indoors. In Austria, especially regions like Tyrol, Advent can include Krampus and Perchten runs, dramatic winter processions with masks and costumes meant, in folklore, to drive away the evil spirits of winter. Even if you never step outside to see them, there's something comforting about the idea. The town itself acting out a story where fear gets chased off, so the season can feel safer. And then, on a different kind of winter night, Austria offers a sight that feels like a moving constellation. In Ebensee, there's the Glöcklerlauf on January 5th, a procession where participants wear white and carry, or wear, illuminated, oversized caps, ringing large bells as they move. Light, bells, winter air, like a ritual made to gently shake the darkness loose. Now let's drift far south to a place where fire becomes part of the season's beginning. In Guatemala, the Christmas season is often said to begin with La Quema del Diablo, the burning of the devil, held on December 7th. Traditionally, people burn an effigy of the devil to symbolize cleansing and the triumph of good over evil, a way of sweeping the old year's shadows out the door before the celebrations truly start. And from our dim room perspective, it's almost like the world has 2 kinds of light in December. The steady, sleepy light of candles, and the bright, quick light of a ritual fire that says, "Begin again." The dim room glow returns, steady and kind. The world outside feels like it's wrapped in felt. In this next stretch of our journey, we'll gather a few traditions that belong to window light, gentle gift bringers, and foods that feel like blankets pulled up to your chin. Let's start where the cold feels vast and light feels precious. In Sweden, on Christmas Eve, many families place a candelabra-style candle holder in the window. It's often electric now but still shaped like a glowing little staircase of light. From the street, it looks like each home is saying the same quiet thing: "We're here. We're warm. We're keeping the darkness company." In a winter where the day can be short, the window becomes a lantern. And if you let your eyes linger on that idea, lights and windows, like a gentle signal that you can almost feel how the season is stitched together by small repeated glows. Now drift to Ireland, where the old custom is even simpler. A single candle set in the window on Christmas Eve, traditionally meant to welcome Mary and Joseph, or more broadly to offer hospitality and welcome to travelers. Whether it's practiced widely or quietly now, the image remains. One flame, steady and patient, holding space for kindness. And from that welcoming light, we move toward a gift bringer who feels like he was invented for sleepy eyes. In Germany, children may look forward not only to Santa, but also to the Christ kind, the Christ child, often imagined as an angelic figure who brings gifts. In some regions, the Christ kind is said to deliver presents on Christmas Eve, arriving invisibly, so the moment before gifts appears can feel like a hush, like the room itself is waiting. In Austria and parts of Central Europe, this Christ-kind tradition is also familiar. Another example of how the same winter story can travel across borders and settle into different homes, changing only slightly, like snow drifting into new shapes. Now, for a different kind of gentle visitor, let's float over to Spain, where early January carries a soft kind of magic. On January 6th, many families celebrate Three Kings Day, Dia de los Reyes Magos, when children may receive gifts from the three wise men. In the nights leading up to it, some leave out treats for the kings, or for their camels, and go to bed with the kind of anticipation that makes sleep feel extra slow, like time is tiptoeing. And because you asked for foods like blankets, we'll keep the lights dim and move gently into the kitchen where winter traditions simmer. In Italy, many families, especially in Italian and Italian-American traditions, observe a Christmas Eve meal called the Feast of the Seven Fishes, built around seafood dishes. It's not loud food. It's comforting food. Courses arriving one by one, salt and warmth and family conversation settling in like steam on a window. And in Poland, Christmas Eve can be centered around a special supper known as Wigilia, often meatless and filled with tradition. One of the best-known customs is sharing the opłatek, a thin wafer, exchanging wishes before the meal begins. It's the kind of ritual that slows everything down on purpose. A quiet moment of kindness before the plates arrive. Then, as our story settles back toward sleep, we'll end this segment with something that looks best in a dim room. Paper lanterns and stars, not the huge festival kind, but the kind that hangs in windows or from ceilings, turning ordinary rooms into gentle night skies. Across many places, these lights aren't just decoration, they're a way of making winter feel friendly. The lights are lower now, and even your thoughts feel like they're walking on tiptoe. So let's keep going. Slowly, into traditions that belong to midnight hush, snow-soft mornings, and the kind of gentle customs you can listen to with your eyes half closed. Somewhere in England, the night gathers itself into stillness, and a church door opens onto cold air. People step inside, cheeks pink from the weather, and the world outside fades into quiet as the service begins. In Anglican tradition, a midnight service on Christmas Eve, often called Midnight Mass, is a familiar way to welcome Christmas. The room glows with candlelight and the singing doesn't feel like performance. It feels like warmth being made out of breath. Even if you've never been to one, you can imagine the mood. Coats hung up, hands wrapped around programs, the hush of a shared pause in the year. And we can drift from there to Austria, where another kind of midnight calm arrives. This time around a tree. In many Austrian homes, the Christmas tree is traditionally decorated on Christmas Eve, and gifts may appear then too, with the evening feeling like a soft reveal rather than a noisy morning rush. It's a different rhythm. The day holds its breath and then quietly the room becomes magical. Now let's turn our steps toward Russia and the Orthodox Christian calendar, where Christmas doesn't always fall on December 25th. In the Russian Orthodox tradition, Christmas is commonly celebrated on January 7th, a date connected to the use of the Julian calendar for religious observances in some Orthodox churches. It's like the season has an echo. Another Christmas, arriving later when the rest of the world has already moved on. And in parts of Orthodox tradition, the evening before Christmas can include a meal with its own gentle rules. A meatless, dairy-free fast that lasts until the first star appears, and then a supper that feels both humble and special. The details vary by place and family, but the feeling stays the same. Waiting, watching the sky, and letting the night tell you when to begin. Now, since we promised snowy customs, let's float into Canada, where winter can be deep enough to make the world feel muffled. In Newfoundland and Labrador, there's a tradition called mummering or jannying. People dress in disguises, go from house to house, and are welcomed in for treats and drinks while hosts try to guess who's hiding under the costumes. It turns dark winter evenings into a game, a warm little mystery shared indoors. From that playful hush, faces hidden, voices disguised, we move to a tradition that's quieter still. The kind that's more about listening than doing. In Finland, besides the Christmas peace declaration we visited earlier, Christmas often includes time for sauna, a deeply familiar part of Finnish life. For many, a Christmas sauna is a way to slow down and feel clean and calm. The soft reset of warmth against winter. It's not flashy. It's restorative. It's almost like letting the holiday begin in silence. And now, because you asked for decorations that look best when the room is dim, let's return to light, but keep it sleepy. In many places across Europe and beyond, real candles on Christmas trees were once common, and though electric lights are far safer and more common now, the idea still lingers. A tree that looks like it's full of captured starlight. Even imagining it makes your eyes feel heavier, as if the darkness itself is being politely illuminated. Finally, we'll finish this segment with a small snow day feeling. The way winter often brings families indoors and traditions become simpler with warm drinks, quiet music, and the gentle, repeated act of gathering close because the outside is cold. In so many countries, that's the true constant. Not the exact date, not the exact dish, but the shared softness of being inside together. The night has that cozy, quiet feeling now. The kind where even your thoughts move slowly. So let's keep drifting. Gathering traditions that sound like soft music, warm bread, and the hush of people singing somewhere far away. In the west of England, where old orchards sleep through winter, there's a tradition that feels like a lullaby for trees. It's called wassailing, and in orchard wassailing, people visit cider apple trees in the deep winter, sometimes around Twelfth Night, bringing song and noise and good cheer meant to bless the orchard and encourage a good harvest. The idea is strangely tender, as if even the trees deserve a little encouragement to make it through the cold. You can imagine the scene. Dark branches overhead, breaths in the air, voices rising in the night, and the warm scent of cider shared from a cup. And now let's carry that singing. Still soft, still seasonal. Across the ocean to Puerto Rico, where the night doesn't always go to bed when you do. In Puerto Rico, a beloved tradition called Parandas works a bit like Christmas caroling, but with a lively heart. Friends and family gather, often late at night, sometimes after 10 p.m., and they move quietly toward someone's home with instruments and voices ready. Then they break into song, surprising the household with music. The point isn't just the singing. It's the feeling of community arriving at your door, turning an ordinary night into something bright. Sometimes, of course, those surprised hosts don't just listen, they join. And the group can grow as the night continues, house to house, laughter and rhythms carrying forward like a traveling lantern. Now let's soften again and step into the kitchen, because winter rituals often end where the warmth lives. In Italy, one of the most beloved Christmas sweets is panettone, A tall, airy sweet bread traditionally filled with raisins and candied citrus. It's the kind of treat that feels like a pillow made edible. Light, gently sweet, and perfect with a quiet cup of something warm while the world outside stays cold. And since we've already visited a Polish Christmas Eve table, we can add one more comforting detail to that scene. Something you can practically taste just by hearing it described. In Poland, a traditional drink often served with the Christmas Eve meal is kompot z susu, also known as kompot wigilijny, a dried fruit compote made with warm spices. Sweet, dark, and fragrant. The kind of beverage that feels like it's meant to be sipped slowly while candles flicker and conversations stay gentle. Now we return to the idea of soft decorations. The ones that don't sparkle sharply, but glow like the room is breathing. Across so many homes, the most sleep-friendly decoration isn't the brightest one. It's the one that looks best reflected in a window at night. Warm white lights, a small paper star, a single candle, a string of gentle bulbs that turns the edges of furniture into something dreamy. That's how winter gets cozy, by letting light be quiet instead of loud. And in the same way, the gentlest carols, the ones that feel designed for drifting off, often come not from performances, but from people simply singing together. In a church, in a doorway, in a cold street, in an orchard, or at the edge of someone's sleep. The songs fade into the distance now, and what's left is that sleepy quiet. The kind that makes every tradition feel like a bedtime story. So in this next stretch, we'll gather hush soft gift customs, a little snow night folklore, and warm drinks that feel like holding a mug with both hands. Let's begin in New Zealand, where Christmas arrives in summer, and the air is warm instead of sharp. Even so, the season still finds its own kind of coziness, just in a different key. In many New Zealand homes, the Christmas tree might not be a pine at all, but something local. The pohutukawa, sometimes called the New Zealand Christmas tree, known for its bright red flowers that bloom in the summer holidays. It's Christmas wearing sunlight, proof that the feeling of the season can live in any weather. Now, from summer warmth, let's drift back into deep winter again, where folklore often shows up as a gentle warning or a playful shiver. In Wales, there's an old tradition called Mari Lwyd, a horse's skull, or a carved/replica skull, mounted on a pole and draped in cloth, carried from house to house during the winter season. The group may sing, and the household may answer back in a kind of rhyming exchange, part song, part contest, before the visitors are welcomed inside for refreshments. It can sound eerie when you describe it plainly, but in practice it's often festive and communal, like winter deciding to dress up and act a little strange for fun. And now, let's soften into a quieter kind of gift tradition. One that's more about thoughtfulness than surprise. In parts of Central and Eastern Europe, especially Germany and the Czech Republic, Advent calendars have long been a way to count down the days to Christmas. Small doors, small chocolates, small pictures, a tiny daily moment of anticipation. It turns waiting into a ritual, not rushing toward Christmas but arriving gently, one day at a time. We can pair that with another kind of waiting, one that involves shoes by the door, and the quiet hope of waking up to something changed. In many places where St. Nicholas Day is celebrated, the Netherlands, Belgium, Germany, and Austria, children may place shoes outside the night before, and in the morning find sweets or small gifts inside. It's a tradition that makes the house feel alive at night, as if kindness walks through it while everyone sleeps. Now let's warm the story with drinks. In Germany and Austria, a classic winter comfort is mulled wine, often known as Glühwein in German-speaking regions. Served hot and spiced, it's closely tied to the Christmas market atmosphere, steam rising into cold air, hands wrapped around a cup, the scent of citrus and clove lingering like a slow song. In Mexico, Another cozy seasonal drink is Punch Navidino, a warm fruit punch traditionally served during the Christmas season, often around posadas gatherings. It's fragrant and comforting, full of fruit flavors designed to feel like warmth from the inside out. And because winter comfort has many accents, we'll end this segment with something creamy and familiar from North America. Eggnog, a rich holiday drink traditionally served in the US and Canada during the Christmas season. Sweet, spiced, and filling, it's basically a dessert you can sip. Soft enough to match the drowsy mood we're keeping. The night is almost finished with us now, not ending sharply, but tapering off the way a candle does, when the room is warm and no one wants to move too quickly. So for our final stretch, we'll gather traditions that feel like a quiet closing chapter. Gentle gifts, soft superstitions, warm drinks, and ways people around the world step from one year into the next. Slowly, kindly, with sleepy eyes. In Scotland, the year doesn't simply turn over like a page. It's welcomed in like a guest. On Hogmanay, Scottish New Year, there's a tradition called first footing. After midnight, the first person to cross your threshold is thought to bring the household luck for the year ahead. In older versions of the custom, that first visitor might bring small symbolic gifts, something warm, something useful, something hopeful. Like coal or shortbread, or a small token meant to say, "May your home have heat and food and sweetness and good cheer." And from Scotland's doorstep, we drift to Spain, where the new year arrives in a far more bite-sized way. On New Year's Eve, Nochevieja. Many people in Spain eat 12 grapes at midnight, one for each bell strike, one grape for each month ahead. Like a small rhythmic ritual of luck, concentration, and quiet hope. It's quick, it's oddly calming, and it turns a single minute into a tiny ceremony. Chew, wish, breathe, and begin. Now we float east to Japan, where the final night of the year carries a different kind of softness, more reflective, more cleansing, like tidying your mind before sleep. In Japan, Amisoka is New Year's Eve, and one beloved tradition is eating tashikoshi soba, year-crossing noodles. Long noodles, gently slurped, symbolizing a wish for longevity and a smooth crossing from the old year into the new. It's comfort food with meaning, warm, simple, and perfectly suited to a quiet night. And then, as the new year arrives, many people take part in Hatsumote, the first shrine or temple visit of the year, often done in the first few days of January. Some go right after midnight, some go later. Either way, the feeling is the same, starting anew with a small pilgrimage, a whispered prayer, a gentle moment of intention. Now, let the camera of your imagination pull back far enough to see how these end-of-season traditions rhyme with everything we've heard tonight. Shoes placed out. Candles set in windows. Trees decorated in hush. Warm drinks held between both hands. Midnight services. Quiet procession songs. Tiny daily doors on calendars. A fruit eaten at a certain time. A visitor crossing a threshold. And what do all these customs really do? They help people feel safe at the edge of darkness, at the edge of winter, at the edge of a year. So we'll take the last steps gently, like we don't want to wake anyone. If you're listening in bed, let your breathing slow. If you're somewhere else, let your shoulders drop. The world is still turning, still glowing in quiet corners. Window stars, candle crowns, sleepy kitchens, soft carols far away. And now the story can close. Good night wherever you are in the world. Under snow, under rain, under summer stars. May your room stay warm, your thoughts stay soft, and you sleep peacefully tonight.